Afternoon. Hope everyone's had a good Jubilee weekend. It's been quite an exciting one. So, back with the Scania 770. Now, I had originally planned to put the planetary box in there and relocate the steering and everything else. And while I wasn't building it, I've kind of decided against that, and I'm going to build it all up originally, and then she's got the options as to whether she wants the gearbox later down the line and stuff. I've kind of built it with me in mind, thinking about it. Like, I do all this stuff to suit me, not my daughter. This is her first truck, and she doesn't even know what a gearbox is or anything like that. She's not going to understand it, but should she like enjoy the hobby and kind of get into it a little bit, she might be happy when we're out playing on the park changing gears and stuff. So I've gone ahead and chucked the 55 turn motor in and removed what are normally a 27 turn can. I'm presuming it's the same thing. Yeah, chuck that 55 in there, and basically what I'm going to do is go back to the beginning of the manual and build up the steering link shafts and stuff like that, which go down the side for the steering. And then we already have a servo up there. I'm not going to attach the link rod to the servo and the gearbox. I'm just going to lock that gearbox for now in first or second, depending on how the 55 turn works through the gears. So, little backtracking, getting the extra servo mounting, stuff like that, and getting that little mechanism in. And then we can jump back to where it was and look at getting the battery tray in, which I said I was just going to do anyway, but I haven't done it. So we're literally just back on track with a manual after we just go back to like step 1 and 6. You know, curly whirly. Once it's all together, we can then start wiring up this Tamiya MFC03, the Euro truck one, was kindly donated from Andy P. So thanks for sending this to my little girl, man. She's going to be well over the moon when this thing's up and running. And I'm not really one to usually chuck sound and lights in my trucks personally, because you can kind of hear everyone else's in the club and not your own. But when we're out on the park and stuff playing, and she's got this booming away, she's just going to be over the moon, while I've just got a silent rackety truck there just trundling along. So massive thanks to you, it's most appreciated, and yeah, the little girl's going to love it. We'll get on now and get these few little bits and bats done here and there, and then it can all be put together once painted. However, I will go through the paint preparation and all that with you as well, on how I paint, my personal preference. It's not necessarily how to paint, but yeah. I'm going to move on to part 2, which we have that GPM one there. It's exactly the same as the plastic one, but just in a metal. And then I'd skipped section 6 originally for the mechanism down the side of the chassis, which will in fact operate the steering. So we need to get that made up, and then we can fit the servo mount, the servo itself, and then it's moving back forwards through the manual to where I left off last week before the school holidays. And yeah, we're here, part 25 on the battery tray. So I've got all my little bits and bobs out here for the steering shaft now. It's just a small bit of cleaning up to do on the parts that I have just removed off the tree. So here we've got some rod ends. These are just going to go back to back on the rods, and the steering rod I have already done, but I have put the angled rod ends on there from RC 4-wheel drive to get a better lock. So up the front I am actually going to have to do away with these, because if you pop the balls out of the actual rod ends, the rod then doesn't sit over the Tamiya balls, so we do have to do that with just a nut and a bolt to hold them onto the steering knuckles. To line all these up correctly, there is a little graph chart there at the bottom of the page, and I'm eye to eye on that one. So basically all you're going to do here is get your rod ends, set them off on the thread, and you're just going to keep winding either side until you have an exact match. Still just need to tie those in just a little bit more. Let's see, one more turn. There we go. And that's basically all you're doing for that there. And then just make up the next one. Same way. And then if you wish, you can measure the gaps. That's supposed to be a 28mm difference, and there I have 28mm. So now with the remaining few items we have here, you want to take your C14, well it's off parts tree C, numbered 14, and you're going to stick this bush, which is also off the same parts tree, into there. And in this end goes the tiny bearing, like so. And in this end we're going to put the big bearing. Now before we put the steering shaft in there, we are going to need a little bit of grease. A little bit of grease on there. Hi Princess.
I'm going to remember to bring the letter back.
It's okay. We've got it sorted for you. Just working on your truck.
Get changed.
So yeah, that then goes in there. And now we're going to need this, which is your part C6. It's kind of a servo thing. You do have two of these, so just be careful because they are both different. One takes 2 hexes, the other takes 1. So I'll work from this end of the servo thing and working with the one with the 2 hexes to this side. So we want to take one of the little black nuts there, pop that in there, and the 9mm ball connector, just a little bit of thread lock on there. Tighten that up with the little Tamiya Allen wrench key tool thingamabob provided. So now, keeping it vertical, like so, and one of these tiny little, what are they, I think they're 6mm screws, 5mm screws they are actually, by 2mm, so they are only tiny. Again, just a little bit of thread lock on there, and then we can screw that actually into the shaft itself. And now for the other one. So again, a nut in there, a blob of thread lock. There we go. And this one is basically going to go on a 90-degree angle to this one. So we'll just pop that over the shaft there. Take the little screw, the remaining one, thread lock, I can lock that into that half of the shaft. Now we've got all the steering rods and the little mechanism made up. We are now going to need somewhere to seat the servo. So here I have, which I had sent from a batch of Euro truck parts when I was sponsored by GPM a few years back. And at the time I wasn't building Euro stuff, so I was only really using the American products that they'd sent me. However, I did just keep everything to one side. So as with the plastic Tamiya one, which I do in fact have here, you can kind of see they are the same. And they are going to go together the exact same way as well. I also have another aluminum one there, which is already made up. But I like the little angles and curves on that. Not that you're going to see them, but I just think it looks better. And it'll just add a bit of shine down between the chassis, even if you can see it or can't. But yeah, they basically all go together the same way. Well, I'm just going to drop in there like so. And that's just going to clamp up on the back there. Again, a little bit of this thread lock. And just locking that into the back of there. A little bit more thread lock for that one. We're not going to tighten this up fully yet, just because we need that. That'll adjust to variable servos. They do come in different sizes. You'll have like a normal size, and then you get some Savox in there, slightly wider, and so forth. Just for measuring purposes. There we go. So I've got one clamp mat there. There we go. So now we're going to want to fit the servo. Now if you are using your standard Tamiya servo bracket, you will be using the standard hardware, so don't be looking at these nuts and screws and things and thinking I don't have those in my kit. These are just the hardware provided with the servo mount itself. So now we've got those together, we can now put the chassis back on the table and get these little bits fitted to the chassis. This little gadget here is going to bolt here in those 4 holes using 4 12mm screws. And now mounting the bracket from GPM. I honestly don't know if GPM still stock the stuff for the semi trucks. That's something you probably would have to go up on their website and have a look at. So now we've got them made and fitted and on there. Now I need to just go back to the first step, make up the servo savers for now. I'm just going to use the parts I showed you in a recent video how to lock the gearbox. Now, somewhere in here, it does actually show you in the manual, I believe, for if you're using like 2-channel radios or something where you can't operate gears. Here we go. Part C9. So if you was using a 2-channel radio and you didn't have the channels to switch your gears, those are the parts that you do use to lock up. So I am just going to lock Leyland's down into first gear now, and I'm just going to pull that shift rod forward and stick them 2 little clamps onto there. They look like little Lego hands, and that's just going to grab that between the E-clip and the actual wall of the gearbox, and it's just going to stop that shift rod from moving. So that will be locked down into first. Like I say, she doesn't need the gearbox yet, but I'm decided to keep it in case it's an option she chooses to go with later down the line. So taking 2 of the little Lego hands there, push that shift rod forward and clamp one of them onto there. There we go. And the second one. So now using those, the gearbox there is now locked up into first gear. But once we get it up and running, if it's too slow, we can then take one of them clips off, let the rod centre itself into second gear, and just lock it on the other side. So now with these odds and sods, we're kinda getting back on track with the build again. It's not that I lost track, I just kinda building it as if I was building my own truck. So your link rods and everything, these do literally just pop onto the balls into place where they need to go and everything else. But I ain't gonna add these at this moment in time for one reason. I haven't centered the servos or anything like that, so everything's going to need plugging in, and then the servos can center themselves, and then I can work from there. So battery tray I believe we're on to next. We'll just quickly go ahead and add this one here, the small one. It's not actually coming from a servo. So that's where we left off originally in the last video. Now onto the battery tray. And this is quite simple, straightforward. And also by adding the servo to the side here and stuff like this, I'll be able to show you how to relocate it all to the front at some stage. Because a lot of you, I suppose, would be working from this, which is confusing. So I suppose it'll work out better for you guys rather than me just building up and chucking it straight in the front. Because some of you will be wondering, well, what have you done, what have you removed? At least that way I can do the whole step-by-step relocation process from basically a standard kit-built truck. So I am going to have to pick Leyland a couple of these size lipos. They're like your NIM size lipos. Mine don't actually fit in this tray without them scrubbing on the prop shaft through the top there, which I think is, you know, a bit sketchy really. But I have some more squarer packs and they don't angle round and they sit square out there, and it was rubbing. So I'll pick Leona a couple of these up for the truck. Take your battery tray door. Going to slot into there like so. Now basically the only thing stopping this falling out are, now how you're going to lock this in onto a hinge system is by taking these washers, and they're just literally going to overlap that lip there, and that will stop it falling out but allow it to open and shut. We have some of these 8mm tapping screws for this because the plastic's not threaded. Screw that into there, and the same on the other side. Now you got a battery door, and then you want to take this, and it's like a body post mount, body pin mount, basically a lock. So again, this is a self tapper, but it does have a hex top, so you can use your little Tamiya wrench for this and just wind that in there, and then your door shall close over there, and the pin will just go in like so. And then once your battery is in, that pin will stop your battery falling out. Now there is an end piece to this, however it's not to go on just yet because you still do have a couple of holes there which I believe are going to mount something within the chassis, possibly part of the tank or something like that, but we need to keep that free just to save taking it off again. So now we can add the battery tray to the chassis. You're just going to want to align that over the correct holes and screw that up using 8mm. So there we now have the battery tray installed, and we have all the steering mechanism in there ready to go, and we're going to keep that for the shifting servo just so she has options. I can't deny her of them in case she wants them. You know, she might want to put it into third gear and it'll wall at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, it's nothing really new as far as the build goes. It's just been a case of catching back up the little bits that we'd missed out. I hadn't had a couple of days break, it would have probably had the planetary gearbox in there now and things like that. But don't worry, a few of you have asked in the comments if these are easy to install, etc. How do you install them? So what I'll do, I will get my Kingola out and I will pull the gearbox out of that, and I'll just show you how they go in there, and we can drill up Rusty's chassis, fit it into that, and I'll show you working in that, and I can put the gearbox back in and use that for something else. But yeah, just keeping it simple. So we've got the motor swapped out there and all the little steering gadgets. For now, that's all I can really do. My daughter's not long got home from school, so we can now take a walk up to the animal feeds, because next door there's a paint supply place. They don't sell like aerosols and paint like that, but they do sell things I need. I do need another fitting for my spray gun, and then we can work on getting this painted. So I think I'm going to have a walk with my little girl now, like I say, get the part I need, and then we can progress with that. Next it could quite possibly be the Volvo, because I have the interior here ready to go in this now as well. So not sure if that video is going to have made sense, but anyway, I still hope you enjoyed it. So don't forget to put a like on the video. If you haven't already subscribed, do hit that subscribe button. Ping the notification bell to keep notified of any future videos. If the videos aren't for you, then just ignore the notification and feel free to drop a comment. I do my damnedest to reply to a lot of you. So for now, I'm going to say ciao and take care, guys. Happy days.